Today on That's Based, we're of course going to talk about the story that you all know we're going to cover. We're going to be talking about the Israeli protest attack. We're going to be talking about Ukraine evidently trying to start World War III. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think we're going to have time to cover all this. So you'll get it all on like Wednesday, and maybe we'll do some of it Sunday or something. I don't know. But I'm going to be straight with you. We're not going to have time to talk about all this. We got a cancer cluster out in East Palestine that was covered up. The Democrats apparently have a new leader, if you count their primary polls here. Glenn Greenwald, the legendary journalist, gets dragged through the mud. There's boycotts left and right. Tinder institutes a new height rule. A mental health study tells us exactly what we already know. Karine Jean-Pierre leaves the Democrats. Jeffrey Epstein's quote-unquote suicide, if you ask the FBI. There's more updates on that, and then there's this big bad company that everybody's talking about. Again, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to cover all of this in our 2-hour time span, so we're going to do our best, but the rest of it you're probably going to get later on in the week. That's a rundown of our topics, though. We will see in like 2 seconds. All right, welcome to That's Based. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way through the end of days, brought to you by Outlaw Streamers and Blood of Tyrants Wines. Drink bloodoftyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show. You'll save 10% off your order at the checkout. 2 types of wine, both red and white, along with the liquid freedom energy drink. Drink bloodoftyrants.com with the promo code BASED. You're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout and support the brands that have similar worldviews to us, because what aligns with our values more closely than the blood of tyrants? Of course, politically, not literal blood. We would never encourage anything like that. One more time, the website is drinkbloodoftyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, to save 10% off your order at the checkout. All right, well, we are here. My partner in crime, Stockholm Mia, the red face of white supremacy, is here with us per usual on these Saturdays. How is it going?
Good.
My guess is you haven't been following the story that we're going to talk about for the lead topic, because it all rolled out this afternoon.
Is it the Trump and Elon?
Oh, yes, the breakup.
Yeah.
The breakup. It's this is like watching 2 women fight. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But first, let's jump into the current state of the left. Let's check on them real quick.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
The left, they're probably doing better than we are right now, full disclosure, guys. Nonetheless, this is Vermont Representative Becca Balint, and she has got some interesting... Well, by the way, it's which liberal most belongs in a mental institution we're playing. Becca Balint, a representative from Vermont, has got some interesting takes on the immigration situation going on right now and what exactly the immigrants are here to do for us. Go ahead.
Labor, and of course, we have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
That's what we need. We need immigrants so that people can be here to wipe our asses. Mia, how many times since you were 1 year old has somebody wiped your ass?
Every time.
Every time she goes to the bath. Do we have an immigrant floating around the house that I'm unaware? Is that what Consuela's been coming over here for?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I didn't know we had that kind of money. I knew the stock market was up. We talked about it on Wednesday. I didn't know we had immigrants wiping our asses money around here, but evidently that's just a regular thing. That's just the normal thing. You don't have an immigrant to wipe your ass. What are you going to do? I mean, this is really, and you saw something similar. I believe it was Ozzy Osbourne's daughter back in the 2016 election was on The View. And she said, if you deport all the illegal Mexicans, who's going to clean your toilets, Donald Trump? And they all poo-pooed her and whatnot. And it's like, no, one slip up I'll let you have. This is how they view these people. They view these people as cheap labor. They'll hide behind humanitarianism when they advocate on behalf of illegal immigrants being able to stay in this country. But the reality is they just like the convenience of having people whom they don't have to see and likely don't even speak their language that come from a very poor country. And this is somehow a step up for them. They like the convenience of being able, of being just a little bit away from it. from the ugly side of, the underbelly of this country. They like that. It's nobody they know. It's nobody that's not their neighbors. It's not their family. It's not their friends. Somebody's getting shit on. They're from another country, and since they can't see it and they can't even speak the same language as these people, they don't have to touch it. And that's why they like it. That's what they genuinely see these immigrants that come over here, specifically from third world countries, as, is just cheap labor. Cheap labor and free votes. That's it. And it's so dehumanizing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Michael Moore. Michael Moore has got a updated version of the Pledge of Allegiance. This is not a joke. Michael Moore, go ahead, pull his, it's just a picture. He didn't read it. This is Michael Moore's new Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the people of the United States of America and to the democracy for which we all stand. One person, one vote, one nation, part of the world, everyone, a seat at the table, everyone, a slice of the pie. Far be it from, of course, Michael Moore would bring up pie. With liberty and justice, equality and kindness, and the pursuit of happiness for all, Moore wrote on his Substack account. So that is Michael Moore's updated version of the Pledge of Allegiance. These people just don't understand that they are a walking parody of themselves. This is why nobody takes you guys seriously, because you're going around doing shit like this. This is the same as these goofy looking white kids walking around in Palestinian keffiyehs. This is the same thing as people as the white congressmen and Jewish congressmen in the traditional African garb during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protest, taking a knee in the Hall of Congress for, what was it, for George Floyd. They don't realize what a parody of themselves they've become. It's so pathetic. So pathetic. Michael Moore, again, like I said, surprise, surprise, Michael Moore brought up pie, right? Okay, let's go to the next one here. We got, let's do to the guy feeding the homeless. This is an individual. He decided to feed the homeless, and transgender had some other thoughts about that. Go ahead.
Hey, asshole! Can you do something about the fucking people are out here about to fucking assault me? Can you wake the fuck up and use your fucking eyes, please? Can I have the same liberty as everyone else?
I'm not the police. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Oh, hey.
You can still eat that. I think it's just that masculine aggression. The trannies are always freaking out. They're always getting violent. They're always yelling. They're always screaming. It's just, you don't see women freak out to that degree. Not as often. Not in as high of percentages, although we're going to show you one in a little bit, although it wasn't quite as extreme. Mia, what do you think it is that makes the trannies get so violent and aggressive like that?
They're mad because they know deep down that they'll never be a woman.
That's exactly it. Maybe it's just the higher levels of testosterone than 99.9% of women. It could also be that. That could also be freaking them out. Just perpetual victims. But you know what? Maybe that guy. I mean, look, he was the guy that was feeding the homeless. It was good on him. He's doing his thing. But when you attract a bunch of homeless people, naturally you're going to get some individuals that are, I don't know, a little shady. They might not act right. And I wouldn't be surprised if that quote-unquote woman was being harassed by several homeless men. I wouldn't be surprised about it. However, to go up and scream at this guy that's just there trying to help his community and do a public good, and then destroy the food that was meant for the homeless people, waste it, is just subhuman. And sometimes it makes me wish that the things you guys say about Donald Trump were actually true. Okay, we got two more here. This is, speaking of the trannies, let's get into this one. We had another, a public forum where a cable news network was interviewing multiple people, and check out what one of these quote-unquote trans kids had to say. Now, I want to make this clear before we get into it. I'm not criticizing the child here. We're going after the parents. But go ahead and see what this trans kid had to say about Donald Trump here.
What concerns have you had about speaking out?
That I'm gonna be murdered. Like one day I'm gonna be walking down the street and somebody's gonna come up and shoot me or something.
That's a really scary thing to be worrying about at 10 years old.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, that should not be a worry.
Michelle,
You're
what's
right.
going through your mind as you hear your daughter say this?
It's just hard to hear her say that. And she asked me three questions after she heard who won the election. Are we gonna have to move? Are they gonna take me away from you? And am I not gonna be able to get my medicine?
Oh, I wonder why he thought that.
It's frightening.
We've seen Republicans put a lot of money and energy into transgender issues. More than $200 million were spent this election cycle in anti-trans ads. What does that feel like to have so much attention by all these politicians on your identity?
It makes me feel like they think we're puppets that they can play with, and it's just so wrong.
So close. That is so sad to watch, that last kid there. It makes me think that they think, no, the Republicans aren't the ones who see you as a puppet they can play with, sweetheart. The one who sees you as a puppet they can play with is your child-abusing parents. Probably just your mother, if we're being honest here. And your dad's a cuck who sits idly by, and the indifference of good men is worse than the actions of evil men. We get it. That first one, though, man, let me ask you a question. When you were 10 years old, how often did you worry about somebody coming up behind you and murdering you while you walked down the street?
0 times.
Never. No, here, and I had a sketchier childhood than you did, and I didn't have to worry about it either. But let me ask you a question. Where on earth would a 10-year-old, because that's not a normal thing for a 10-year-old to think of. The kid says that, the news reporter says that, the mom agrees. Where do you think that 10-year-old might get the idea that somebody could walk up behind him while he's walking down the street and kill him? That didn't just randomly pop into his head. Do you think that maybe a manipulative child abuser that they call a parent, in my opinion, planted that idea in his head?
No.
No, not a chance. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. I remember when, and this just goes to show how horrible the left is. I mean, how the level of child abuse that goes on in these circles. I remember in 2008, I would have been 12 years old, going on 13. Barack Obama had won the election against John McCain. We had 8 years of Bush, and I wasn't really old enough to remember much of Clinton, but all of my sentient years had been spent under a Republican regime. We were like a Reagan conservative household, politically. And I remember the next morning, my parents told us, this is not the end of the world. It just means we need to be a little bit more vigilant, and it's going to be harder to get what we want. We're just going to have to work harder to get what we want. But we didn't win, and it is what it is. Nobody told us that we were going to be put in camps. Nobody told us that we were going to have to leave the country. And by the way, my parents were avid talk radio listeners at that point in time. They were listening to Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, all the people stirring everybody up, implying that maybe Barack Obama was the Antichrist, riling people up, FEMA camps, they're going to take your guns, lock you in concentration camps. There's going to be a second civil war. Obama's going to be the last president of the United States when he declares himself a dictator. All of it, by the way, I'm not an Obama fan. All of it was bullshit to varying degrees. So they were getting fed all of that crap, yet they still didn't come at us and pass that burden of stress. And I'm sure they were stressed about Obama. Not to the degree some of these lunatics are about Trump, but I'm sure they were worried about Obama taking office. They were worried about the future for their children, but they didn't pass the burden on to us because that's what child abusers do. That's what, and more importantly, that's what people who are mentally immature do. You're the parent. You deal with the stress. You don't pass the stress onto your 10-year-old. I don't care if it's it's something to do with the election. I don't care if you're having trouble paying your bills. I don't care what it is. You shut up, you swallow it, and you deal with it. You don't let your child have to deal with the same level of stress you are. That's part of being an adult. If you can't do that, you should go to a fire department and drop your kid off and tell them, have someone who behaves like a grown adult take my child because I'm clearly not fit to be a parent. That's what you should do. If you pass the burden of your political stress onto your 10-year-old child, you are a piece of shit. That's all I have to say on that. Do we have one more? I think we have one more liberal that belongs in a mental institution. This woman confronted a guy in a parking lot over a Trump bumper sticker, or a conservative bumper sticker, and this is how the conversation played out.
Is that what they're making money? Hey, you can't.
Like, the United States is kind of trash.
Okay.
It doesn't treat its people
Then
well.
move!
You know?
How so?
I don't really know why you're having this. Do you want to have a conversation?
Well, that's why I'm asking you. How so?
What do you mean?
You said the United States treats its people like trash, so I was just asking how.
I mean, right now, how many people are suffering because they can't afford health care? Let's start with there. How about?
Got it. Well, Trump just slashed prescription drug prices by 50 to 80%.
So that
are you
prescription
unhappy with
drug
that?
sellers can raise their prices. I mean, he's just working for fucking capitalism.
Well, he actually isn't taking a salary. And he's also lost $1 billion in his net worth from the first administration when the first time he ran.
But he's taking money from literally anyone who will pay for his stupid fucking coin, his what is it? Trump coin, Doge coin, I don't know.
There's a lot of cryptocurrencies that people make money off of. Are you upset with them making money? Hey, you can't.
I love how quickly they resort to violence. He was recording. She was upset that he was recording her. He was recording you because you people do shit like that because you're prone to those types of people are prone to two things. Number one, violent outbursts, and number two, false accusations. He doesn't want to deal with either of them. If you get violent, you bet your ass he wants to take it to the police. If you falsely accuse him of something, you bet your ass he wants to have it on video so he can turn around and sue you into bankruptcy. So this is what we just talked about this on Wednesday. When you actually, because these people refuse to engage anyone on the other side, right? They sit in their little echo chambers and they fester. They get fed their talking points and then they don't go outside, right? So when they're actually confronted with opposing viewpoints and they actually have to sit there and debate someone who believes, who thinks differently than them, this is the kind of shit that happens. They spurg out. The second that the bumper stickers they speak in stop working, they just can't compute. It's seriously, it's like when you have too many programs running on your computer at the same time and it just starts freezing up, their brain doesn't know what to do and they wig out. And they either totally change the subject, they resort to whataboutism, or in some cases they go to violent outbursts like that. That's what the left does. Was that woman in Scrubs? In that vid, she was. These are the people that are taking care of you when you go to the hospital. And the problem here is it's not just her. I see Reddit posts posted all over Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Are we calling it Twitter again because Trump and Elon are beefing, so we want to dead name it now? But I see Reddit posts shared all over Twitter where liberals are saying, I work in emergency services and I provide slower care to anyone who's conservative. First off, I don't know how you can tell if someone's conservative if they're in the emergency room. I guess maybe if they had a shirt on or a tattoo, or if they had a bumper sticker and you're responding to a first responder responding to a car accident. I sincerely hope that every single person that's saying that is some either total weirdo loser nut job shut in their basement that doesn't go outside having a fantasy, or a 12-year-old trying to be edgy. But the problem is there's enough people saying it and enough unhinged lunatics on the left that there's no way they're all trolls. There are legitimately people out there that will provide you lesser care because you voted differently than them. And this is what we're up against. So, Mia, I will ask you, which liberal most belongs in a mental institution?
I'm going to go with the guy who freaked out on the homeless feeder.
The homeless feeder? Is that like a bird feeder?
The guy who was feeding the homeless.
You just leave it out in your yard and they come? I guess, it depends what part of town you live in. They might do that. I remember we lived in an apartment a long time ago that already wasn't in a great area, and someone would leave food out for the homeless. And I'm like, stop doing this. I understand. Like, there are places you can take this stuff to people like that guy in that video that will go out to where these people are and distribute it. You can take it to the Open Door Mission. There's a lot of places. Do not attract these people around here. While I understand you're, probably some lily white liberal trying to do what's right, you're trying to feel good about yourselves. The reality is a lot of these people are sex offenders. They're violent. They're on drugs. They're schizophrenic. I don't want them in my living quarters.
Maybe that's what the banana bandit or the banana person was.
The banana phantom?
The banana phantom. Maybe that's what they were.
He was trying to feed the homeless?
Yeah.
Well, nobody was taking it. So that'd be an interesting twist. That story just irks me for a whole slew of reasons. But I agree with you. I think the homeless attack is by far the worst. You don't, you know what? Maybe something was happening to that guy, not woman, guy, and he was upset about it and he had every right to. Maybe, but at the end of the day, you don't destroy the table of someone who's feeding the homeless. I don't care how unhinged you are, but this is what we're dealing with: perpetual victims and mentally ill lunatics. That's been the current state of the left. Stay tuned. We got a whole bunch of fun stuff to talk about heading into the lead topic. All right, this week for our lead topic, we have had some interesting developments, and I feel like we need to rewind because it's all just blown up in everybody's faces here. So we talked a couple of weeks ago about the big, beautiful bill. Will you scroll down on the side there so I can see my mic levels? The big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump and the House Republicans were pushing through Congress, and it passed, and it gave us a bunch of tax cuts. And if you remember, I came on the air and I said, hey, I really support these tax cuts. I think people need a break. I think we need to make the Trump tax cuts permanent because we can't afford. I don't know how. I don't feel like most of you listening to this show, or most people in the country for that matter, let me know if I'm wrong, can afford to have their taxes raised 3.5%, which is what will happen next year if we don't codify the Trump tax cuts permanently. So I felt like that was important. I felt that some of the cuts it made were important, but I also said, hey, we're raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion if we're going to pass this. And we're not cutting spending. You've got these Doge cuts, which a lot of us voted for. A lot of us, when we heard the idea that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy were going to, form this different department in the government where they were going to go through the waste and they were going to recommend that the president cut it. That was a big selling point to a lot of people that were, such as libertarians and independents that were maybe a little hesitant to vote for Trump otherwise. And so everyone supported it. Your base supported it. Everyone wanted the cuts, right? Nobody wants wasteful spending. Even the idiot Democrats, they're not going to be too loud about some of the crap they were spending money on there because they know it's a losing issue. So we all wanted the cuts. But I said we need to codify these cuts and we need to make them permanent because we've all seen this movie before. You pass the tax cut, which is good, and then all of a sudden you tell us after the tax cut gets passed, then we'll get to the spending cuts later, and the spending cuts never come. You kick the can down the road and you just forget about it, right? So we were like, no, we need to get this done now. Well, Elon Musk agreed with me. Elon Musk issued a series of tweets over the last week, and they got... I guess one might say increasingly passive-aggressive. You can pull up the first one here. We got a whole bunch of tweets there. He said, I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those of you who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. So... he tweets that, and this was after a series of other tweets. We're not going to show all of them here, but you can go to his account and look on X. And there's a little bit of back and forth. Donald Trump's trying to play nice publicly. He's like, hey, Elon did a great job here cutting government waste. We were very appreciative because Elon Musk's his contract expired. When you're a federal government contractor, which is what he was, you only get X amount of days, and his contract expired. So it's almost like, now the NDA's up and he can talk. I don't know about that. But he's frustrated because, you got to think about this from his perspective. This guy runs how many companies? He stepped away from all of them, to come in here and do this work for free, dedicated serious time to it. His public image took a massive hit. You've got a third of the country will no longer patronize his businesses anymore because of how he put himself out there in this Doge group. And I'm not the biggest Elon fan. We all know that. But he really took a licking for this, for what he saw as being for the good of the country. He dedicated all this time, lost God knows how much money, time away from family, time away from his business, you name it, to come in here and do this. And they identified a whole bunch of waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, I don't think that it was as effective as we were hoping, and that was one of my predictions for the next 4 years. When Trump took office, I had a show, you can go back and watch it. I said, I don't think Doge will honestly accomplish all that much. I think that the bureaucracy is far too large, and they're going to find that out. And that's exactly what happened. They couldn't even get into the Department of Defense. You know, it was a failure. But they did identify some massive waste and potentially some fraud and abuse as well. Money laundering, maybe. And they brought attention to it, which was great. But as of right now, when if the Democrats take over in 4 years, or another establishment Republican does, that waste is right back in because we won't codify it. So I understand why Elon Musk is frustrated here. So a story comes out from the Wall Street Journal, says Trump was losing patience with Elon Musk, said Trump wasn't happy about Musk's decision to lambast his signature legislation. Senior Trump advisors were caught off guard by Musk's latest offensive. The uneasy alliance between the two men was also strained by a recent move by the White House to nix Trump's nominee to run NASA, Jared Isaacman. The decision infuriated Musk, who complained to associates over the weekend that he had donated hundreds of millions of dollars to help Trump get elected in last year's campaign, only to see Isaacman's nomination pulled. Musk's frustration over NASA made him more willing to aggressively criticize the tax bill. So this is probably what this is this is something that it's like when a couple fights. I mean, Musk did tweet a couple months ago, I love Donald Trump as much as it's possible for one straight man to love another. But this is like when a couple fights, and it's, you know, there's little things that had they just addressed them in the moment, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But you sit there and you seethe on it, and then something else comes up, and they're throwing stuff left and right at each other that have nothing to do with it. That's kind of what this is here. And this is what happens, and I warned you guys about this after the election, before Trump even took office. This is what happens when you have too many type A personalities in the room together. Only one person can be king of the mountain. Very, very rarely do you see two genuine alpha male types like Trump and Musk able to share a room with one another and be productive for any extended period of time without it blowing up in their faces. I mean, you see, it's not just in politics. You see this in business. You see this in sports teams. You know, that you can have more than one type A, but everyone has to agree on who the leader is. Remember when LeBron James went to the Miami Heat? The reason that worked out like it did was because, while Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh may have been alphas as well, they both understood that LeBron was A. They were B and C, whatever order you want to put it in, but LeBron was the guy. LeBron was the leader. That's why that worked. When Randy Moss went to New England, he understood, at least for a short period of time, that Tom Brady was the guy. There was a pecking order. The problem is, Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He's not used to answering to anyone. He's used to having the final say, being the judge, jury, and executioner. That's not how it worked. Donald Trump is the same way. Donald Trump doesn't answer to anybody. He's certainly not going to answer to Elon Musk. So Elon feels that Trump owes him. Trump feels that he didn't need Elon, and they've been going back and forth all week. So go ahead and pull the second tweet up here. This one right here. It says, call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill. That was Elon Musk as well. So Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, comes out, and he says, and I quote, "We worked on the bill for almost 14 months. You can't go back to the drawing board, and we shouldn't. I know it's not perfect by some people's estimations, but you cannot make perfect the enemy of the very, very, very good." I don't think I would call this very, very, very good. I don't think I would call adding $50 trillion over the next 20 years to the national debt very, very, very good. I covered this ad nauseum a couple weeks ago. I don't think you should cut the income until you cut the spending. If you've got a second job that you just fucking hate, and you hate working at that job, and you hate having extended time away from your family or whatever the case may be, and you want to quit it, you can't quit that job until you're at a point where financially you're going to be okay. So maybe you stop going out to eat, maybe you pay your credit cards off, whatever the case may be. You can't cut the income until you cut the spending. I think this is elementary math. It's very, very simple. Some of you that are cheerleading cutting the spending and not, or excuse me, cutting the taxes and not cutting the spending, I'm very concerned about how you run your personal budgets at home. I feel like you guys are drowning in debt right now if you apply this same logic to the way you run your money. I also don't believe that this took 14 months for them to write this shit. I really don't. How do you write this? I mean, you guys, again, you're supposedly these fiscally conservative Republicans, right? You know, the adults are back there or whatever. And just, oopsies, we forgot to cut the budget. We're going to rack up like another 20 trillion in debt. Our bad. That's the problem, is a lot of these guys won't be alive, or they'll be in nursing homes when it's actually time to pay the piper on this shit. We can't just keep on racking up the debt forever. I mean, we spend trillions of dollars a year just paying the interest on the national debt. We're not even paying the principal down on the national debt. We're treading water trying to pay the interest down. You want to know why they're not going to cut the budget, though? You don't know why these supposed fiscal conservatives can't get together and pass some type of referendum to actually cut the spending that they complain about every 2 years when it's an election season? It's the same reason Wile E. Coyote never catches the Roadrunner. It's the same reason the doctors never cure cancer. It's the same reason Tom never kills Jerry. Because when that happens, the show's over. When those doctors cure cancer, the money flow stops. The same reason the Democrats wouldn't codify Roe versus Wade after the Supreme Court repealed it. Would have been the most popular thing they could have done among their base, and they didn't do it. Because the second they do that, the boogeyman's gone. There's nothing to fundraise against. There's nothing to campaign against. You have to actually run on issues. And a lot of these House Republicans, these establishment hacks, they don't have principles. They don't have issues. Their stances are the status quo. Keep things the same. Don't rattle the boat. That's all they do. So the second they actually cut the spending, they can't go on TV every 2 years or the radio or send you an abomination amount of mail talking about how the Washington elites are spending us into it. They can't do that. The second that the cuts actually come, they have nothing to campaign on. So they don't want that. This is the same old shit from Republicans. All talk, no action. Great at pointing out problems, refuse to offer solutions, even when the solution is being presented right in front of them. Even when we, the people, know the solution. Normally, we elect people, or not normally, but sometimes we got to admit, we elect people because we don't necessarily know how to get ourselves out of a situation, and we trust those people's judgment, and we think they're smart enough or they have the know-how to get us out of it. This isn't the case. We're saying, hey, stop wasting our money. And they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Gee, what do you want? No tax on tips? No, we want you to stop wasting our money. You know the $20 million we sent for a LGBTQ Sesame Street in Iraq? Let's permanently ban that so we can't do that again. Oh, gee, I don't know. Let's talk about transgender some more. No, cut the fucking spending. This is the shit we're doing. We deal with this every 2 years. Every 2 years we deal with this crap. We got more tweets. Pull this next one from Elon up here. Elon says, interest payments already consume 25% of all government revenue. If the massive deficit spending continues, there will only be money for interest payments and nothing else. No Social Security, no medical, no defense, nothing. And he's right. He's 100% right. The U.S. national debt is rapidly encroaching on $40 trillion. $40 trillion. They want to more than double that under this bill. I don't understand why. And some of you are just so simple-minded, the way you oversimplify this issue. Oh, Caleb's criticizing the big, beautiful bill. He's gone liberal. No, I haven't gone liberal. It's the opposite. Do I need to pull up the definition of conservative versus liberal for you? I'm the opposite of a liberal. I don't want to spend. I would love to see a tax cut, but not without a decrease in spending. I don't know how else to put it to you guys. I don't know how else to frame how I feel about this issue. At this point, if you sat here and listened to my last 12-minute diatribe and genuinely believe in your heart of hearts that I am a liberal based off of what I said, you're either being intentionally obtuse because you don't have an argument to counter it with, or you're fucking retarded. You're just a moron. It's one or the other.
I'm kind of retarded.
Not kind of, very retarded. It's not liberal to say, hey, let's cut the spending. At least not where I'm from. There seems to be this movement that's hijacking the conservative movement that doesn't care about those things, and they want to be no different than the Democrats. I don't know. So Trump tweets this in a response to Elizabeth Warren, who says we need to just totally abolish you can pull it up. Elizabeth Warren says we need to totally abolish the lunatic socialist Democrat, Elizabeth Warren. Yes, that Elizabeth Warren says we need to abolish the debt ceiling so the government can just never stop spending money. So we can just go into crippling amounts of debt and say, fuck it. Except there ain't no bankruptcy for the U.S. government. Trump says, I'm very pleased to announce that after all of these years, I agree with Senator Elizabeth Warren on something. The debt limit should be entirely scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe. It is too devastating to be put in the hands of political people that may want to use it despite the horrendous effect it could have on our country and indirectly even the world. As to Senator Warren's second statement on the $4 trillion, I like that also, but it would have to be done over a period of time as short as possible. Let's get together, Republican and Democrat, and do this. This is the wrong direction. Those of you who voted for Donald Trump, like myself, due to his pride, he's done a lot of things I like. We'll talk about those later. But those of you, such as myself, who voted for Donald Trump because you thought that he was the best chance we had of the two options at cutting the spending, you can't be happy right now. You can't like this. We are going the wrong way when he's talking about abolishing the debt ceiling so the government can take on as much debt as it. I mean, imagine this is like if you locked an alcoholic in a liquor store overnight. You know, this is like if you gave somebody with a really bad shopping addiction, or this would be like if you gave my wife a credit card with no limit on it. I'm kidding. A credit card with no limit on it. You know? This is what you're doing here. This is reckless. The federal government, listen, the debt ceiling is one of the few restraints we have. And I understand they raise it every couple of years or whatever, but it's the only thing, contrary to what the president says, keeping us from economic catastrophe. It's the one governor we have that makes sure these idiots don't spend us into oblivion. Congress has shown time and time again that even with a debt ceiling, they have no regard for our money. I don't know why we think it would be any different, or any better for that matter, if we remove the debt ceiling altogether. I mean, what kind of fool thinks that way? Seriously. Seriously, you couldn't do that with anything else. It's like, you know, I'm really struggling with my drinking, man. I feel like if I had unlimited free access to booze, that's really what could help me sober up here. That's the same logic. That's what I need. I just need to work in a bar, and then I'll be able to quit drinking. That's the logic. I mean, this is the dumbass logic that we're using right and left right now. No. What will cause an economic catastrophe is not us refusing to extend the debt ceiling. What will cause an economic catastrophe is us continuing to dig ourselves into debt, us strapping our children and grandchildren with this burden. That is what will cause the economic catastrophe, because here's what's going to happen. The Federal Reserve is not going to lower the interest rates to the degree that a lot of people want to see it if the United States government continues to rack this debt up. There's your problem. You think it's tough to own a house now? I hate to break it to you guys, but if they keep spending like this, that 6% interest is going to be as good as it gets for a long time. We're going to be stuck like this. Banks are going to start tightening up a little bit. They're not going to give out credit quite as much. I mean, this affects everybody. Whether they want to admit it or not, this affects everybody. Unless we get some type of recession or crash. That's the only way that resets. And I don't think you guys want to deal with that either. I thought they've actually, up until now, done a fairly good job, both the government and the Fed, at avoiding a recession. We'll see where it goes. Okay, so that was the dispute earlier in the week about the bills. Pull up the next tweet from Elon here. Is that the one we got next? Yeah. Elon says, so Thursday, it got really messy. Elon tweets, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Such ingratitude. So that's what Elon says right there. That's an oversimplification. I don't think that's fair. I think they certainly lose the House without Elon because he helped with a lot of down ballot races. I think Trump still wins. I think it's closer. I think maybe she pulls Wisconsin or Michigan or something. But I think Trump still wins without Elon Musk. I think Elon didn't hurt, but I don't think he helped as much as a lot of people think he did. I think, again, being able to funnel money into these congressional candidates that had a little bit of a distance from him, that made the difference right there. He absolutely, you don't take the House without Elon Musk. I completely agree with that. However, for everyone, I just question how many people that otherwise would have stayed home or checked the box for Kamala Harris showed up and voted for Donald Trump because of Elon Musk. I can't imagine that number is all that high. I feel like for everyone that he brought in with his money that he funneled into that campaign, you probably lost at least close to an equal amount of people that were already uneasy about the control that billionaires, specifically tech billionaires, had in this country. So I really don't think he might have helped a little, but I don't think he made as much of a difference as he's claiming. And again, you got these two guys with massive egos. Of course he's going to say that. That's how this is going to work. So Donald Trump responded, and here's what he said about Pennsylvania here.
So we've done a great job. Elon knew that. Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up in campaign for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. But they made a bad choice with him. But if you pick Shapiro or anybody else, I spoke to him recently about his house being set on fire, which was terrible. But if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania. I won it by a lot. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. And he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate because that's billions and billions of dollars. And it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, he became a little bit different. And I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
That's enough.
I just want to clarify, did he raise any of these?
So when he talks about the EV mandate, he is talking about a Biden administration executive order which set a non-binding goal of 50% of new vehicles sold in the U.S. by 2030 to be electric or hybrid vehicles. Obviously, this would have helped Elon Musk quite a bit, considering he owns the #1 electric vehicle company in the world. So there's a little, while I'm sure Elon does have some frustrations like many of us do with the spending here, let's not act like he doesn't have a little bit of a vested financial interest in this as well. So after Trump said that, Elon went on Twitter and he went, you know what? I overreacted. This is very immature. I'm sorry. Can we just have a phone call and discuss this in private? We should not have fought publicly like this. I'm kidding. That's not what he said. He tweeted this instead. He said, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is on the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald. This is like when a guy and a girl go through a nasty breakup and she's just out saying wild shit that's not even true. Like, he's still uncircumcised. He likes to be pegged. Just wild shit. She's got a micro penis, just wild shit to try to embarrass the guy. Elon's referred to okay. Here's my thing. I don't believe this. Do you believe this? Do you think Elon's telling the truth?
About the Epstein?
Yeah.
No, I think he's just making stuff up.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we've had a lot of reports coming out in the last week, and I'm wondering if these came from the Trump administration to maybe cause some instability in the Musk camp, or maybe discredit him kind of preemptively, because you had some reports come out over the week about Elon doing copious amounts of drugs during the campaign trail, and while he was in office at Doge, you had stories about beer bottles left all over these government offices when they audited them. He was doing copious amounts of ketamine and Adderall, allegedly. So, to me, and believe me, I've seen this plenty of times, this looks like somebody who is going through either a mental crisis or is on crazy amounts of drugs that's just swinging wild, accusing people of shit. And drug addicts, that's the thing, drug addicts do this all the time. Drug addicts will come out and accuse you of wild shit because they feel like it hurts you, and they just don't care, and their brain just can't process it. I had a friend, one of his friends was on some pretty hard drugs, and he was trying to help her through it, and all of a sudden she starts screaming at him, accusing him of molesting her kids, and which is the worst thing you could accuse anybody of. So he had her she had just crazy amounts of drugs. She had to go to court to get her kids back and stuff because of the drugs she was doing in the house. It was a bad situation. She's good now, though. She just needed the help there. But that's what drug addicts do, is they will accuse you of the worst things, and just they lie. That's the other thing you have to realize. I'm not saying he is on drugs. I don't have any proof of that. But this erratic public meltdown behavior screams somebody who's abusing drugs right now. And the reason I don't think this is true, there's a lot of reasons besides the drugs. The reason I don't think this is true, there's a number of reasons here. If this is true, this is still classified information. Elon was not greenlit by the executive branch to release this classified information. That's called treason when you do that. Whether Trump's on the list or not, if this is true, that's called treason. I think it's not true because it's also a very low-risk thing to say, because you're probably not going to get sued for it. Trump's a public figure. Musk has enough money to draw this out for a long period of time in court and really doesn't care. So it's going to be hard to prove a case, and I'm not a lawyer, but it would just be a frivolous lawsuit if he tried it. It's not going to go anywhere, right? It's going to end up with Musk apologizing and paying him to fuck off, right? So there's also the fact that if this were the case, we have to consider, if this were the case, you would basically have to throw the last 8 years out and pretend they didn't happen. We'd have to pretend that for the last 8 to 9 years, every intelligence agency, every establishment politician, and every mainstream media outlet in the country, not named Fox, wasn't actively working to destroy this guy. If this were the case, if there were any evidence whatsoever pointing Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, that would have been released. It would have been released in 2016. It would have been released in 2020. It would have been released in 2024. You got to consider, think about the guy we just covered, Comey, with the 8647 that Trump fired. That guy had every incentive to come out and ruin Donald Trump. If that were the case, why wouldn't he come out with it? I don't like, with as much, the fact that, I mean, think about this for a second. You're the FBI. You've got this guy, Donald Trump, maybe not going to be president, a week to the election, talking about how he's going to come in, he's going to clean house, he's going to fire all your superiors, the top brass are gone, we're auditing the entire FBI, they're talking, we're putting people that you guys fired in charge of it, and we're going to run things our way. You would have every incentive on earth to release that file showing Trump on the Epstein list. The Biden administration would have every incentive on earth to greenlight them releasing that file, even if it was just a blip that just showed him and the rest of it was classified. I mean, this administration, you'd think if they had him for any evidence that he did something that vile and disgusting, do you really think when the Biden administration and their DOJ was running that witch hunt, I mean, can you imagine the DOJ? Okay, we got to kneecap this guy Trump. We can't allow him to be president again. We've got 2 pieces of dirt on him. Which one should we go with? We've got this one right here where he went to this island where child sex slaves were and he raped a bunch of minors. Or we have that he paid hush money to a porn star. Oh, let's go with the porn star. That one will do it. No, they would have went for the knockout. They've had 3. That's why I don't think this guy... Look, Donald Trump's not a saint. We know he's not. He's cheated on his wife a bunch of times. He's not the type of person I would want my son to grow up to be. That doesn't mean he's a child molester. If he were a child molester, they would have released it one of the 3 times he considered running for office, or he ran for office. Because every time we heard all these people that had access to the files that could have ruined him screaming from the mountaintop about what a threat to our institutions he was. I don't buy it. Now, he did have a relationship with Epstein, as many people did, but a relationship is not the same thing as going to the island. And we've broken that down. There have been a lot of people that likely went to that island one time and said, oh my God, what the fuck is going on here? And never went back. And maybe they reported it and it got covered up or whatever, but they never went back. That's not the same as the people like Bill Clinton that went to the island, saw what was going on, and then went like 23 more times. Those are the people we need to look into. It's like, the FBI, they've got like certain illegal websites they monitor, and you can use your imagination. I'm not going to tell you the stuff that's on these sites because I don't want to get yeeted off YouTube. But they've got, the FBI monitors all the illicit dark websites, right? If somebody clicks on it and goes, what the fuck is this? And X is out of it. They're not going to come kick that guy's door in because he wasn't seeking it out. Now, if that guy clicks on it and then returns to it 274 more times, yeah, they might go get him. He might go at least get a talking to. So it's the same thing here. Donald Trump, yes, he flew on Epstein's plane. He had a relationship with him, as many people in the New York business scene did. That doesn't mean he was a pedophile. What people don't understand is, or what the media won't tell you about Donald Trump and his connection to Epstein, is about 20-some years ago, Donald Trump banned Jeffrey Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after a 15-year-old girl, it was the daughter of one of Trump's business associates, reported Epstein for making inappropriate contact with her. So if anything, that kind of counts toward, he banned the guy right away. Now, you'd think that if Epstein had all this dirt on Trump, why would Trump ban somebody like that? This guy could ruin my life, my reputation, my career, everything's over. You'd think that Epstein, usually when you hear about somebody having dirt on somebody like that, they kind of let him do whatever they want, and that's part of the problem. That's not what happened. He banned him from Mar-a-Lago. I don't believe this. I also don't believe this because pull this picture up right here of Trump and Elon's son. If Elon Musk knew that Donald Trump was this supposed pedophile that was going to Epstein's island over and over again to fuck kids, why does he let him spend time with his son? there's the question. Why is he spending time with his son? So this means one of two things. Elon is lying, and he was not on the Epstein list. Or he lies! Or Elon let a guy whom he knew had sex with minors over and over and over again have unsupervised alone time with his son. And if that's the case, if it turns out this is true, maybe Elon should be arrested for child endangerment. But it sounds to me like this is bullshit. I think this is bullshit. I don't think this is real. It's bullshit. He tweeted, so after that happened, Elon tweeted this, pull the Vance one right here. Someone said, President versus Elon, who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached, and J.D. Vance should replace him. Elon Musk says yes. I don't think J.D. Vance wants to be involved in any of this. I imagine J.D. Vance is just sitting there like the kid watching the two drunk parents throw beer bottles at each other right now. Like, I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved right now. I don't want nothing to do with this. Keep out of this. He's done a good job at keeping his head down and not causing problems, J.D. Vance has. So Elon also said Trump has 3.5 years left as president, but I will be around for 40 plus years. Basically implying that if you don't get on board with him, he's going to throw money into your primary campaign. If you're a Republican, he's also said that he wants to get a new political party started that represents the 80% of us in the middle. I don't know how well that's going to work out for him, but I guess best of luck. Mia, would you join Elon Musk's political party?
I would.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The autism party?
Yeah, definitely.
What's their
you are autism.
What's their logo? Is like just some weird kid holding a Nintendo Switch. It's the Republican, the elephants and the donkeys. It's Elon Musk. I mean, I can't imagine. I can see him throwing a lot of money at something like that. I can't imagine that going too well. I mean, it's like I said, I think Elon himself underestimates how many people, specifically the average person, that are terrified of these technocrats, of these tech billionaires. The problem is they're on both sides of the aisle. So it's not like, oh, if you vote for the Democrats, you'll just get rid of the tech guys. No, there's not really any way to get rid of the tech guys. It's just people made the decision that, well, if I'm going to live in a techno-fascist society, I'd rather it be one that supports my social views than the other one. That's pretty much what it was. Elon Musk, whether he likes it or not, his entire party, if he formed one, would be centered around a technocracy. There's no way to get that stench off of him. And I just don't see that being all that successful. Maybe they win a couple dog catcher races. What I can see happening is I can see Elon Musk throwing a lot of money at Ron DeSantis 2028. I could see Ron DeSantis becoming the puppet candidate for Elon Musk. And you could really see a showdown there between Vance and DeSantis. And it would be kind of like a power struggle for control of the Republican Party. Musk versus Trump. Trump's influence versus Musk's money. Who wins? And they'd both be like little puppets. It'd be like Pokemon. You know, you throw the Pokeball out and the other one throws instead of just fighting like men, you throw the Pokeball and you let your little freak anime cartoon fight. It'd be the same thing. And I could see that happening. I don't know who wins. Maybe they beat the shit out of each other and somebody like Marco Rubio comes out unscathed. That could be a possibility. I think DeSantis would be more than happy to be the puppet candidate because I think DeSantis is frustrated personally. And if it means selling his soul to the devil, he'll do it. Mia, are you team Trump or team Elon?
That's a hard one because I love both of them.
Yeah, you're a big fan. Or are you team Vance?
Oh, I'm team Vance.
She's team Vance.
I'm team Vance.
Mia's team Vance. Just sit on the sidelines and watch this. I want Jerry Springer involved at this point. I think that's the only way we solve this. Put them both on Dr. Phil. He'll get to the bottom of it. That would be the greatest episode of Dr. Phil in the history. in television history. It would be that would get more views than the Super Bowl if you had Trump and Elon on Dr. Phil arguing back and forth, and then when they have like the kid that's pissed off at the parent or vice versa on Dr. Phil, sometimes they'll bring like their siblings up. They'll bring JD Vance. I just want you guys to get along like you used to. It would be great television. Great television. Now, Steve Bannon went on his show and said that we need to deport Elon and the federal government should seize SpaceX before midnight. Look, Bannon has never liked Elon, but Bannon's rhetoric borders, and this is not a word I use lightly. Bannon's rhetoric, my problem with him, often borders on actual fascism. No, I don't think that because the government or because the president had a public spout with the CEO of a company, the president should just be able to go in and nationalize that guy's company. That is a very, very slippery slope. I don't know if Steve Bannon actually believes that. I don't think Elon Musk should be deported because we don't like what he said. Okay? I think that's, but on the flip side, if you are, this has gone viral on Google. This search is blown up because Democrats are now calling for the Epstein files to be released. It's great. Now they want them released, right? Pull this image up here, this Google search for bumper stickers. Down at the bottom there. It's the last one. How to remove a sticker from a car has blown up because all these people that were driving Teslas had the stickers that's on their car that said, I'm not an Elon fan. I bought it before he went conservative, blah, blah, blah. Now they want to take it off because they're pro Elon Musk because these people are just so incapable of original thought. They want that. All of a sudden they care about the Epstein files. They want them released. Trust me, if you're a Democrat, something tells me you don't want the Epstein files released. Because a lot of your heroes are going to come crashing down again. If they had anything on Trump, we would have known about it by now. Here's the thing, though. If you're Donald Trump and you want to shut this Epstein thing down, that's real easy for you to do. Because you got these two guys at the FBI that are going around on the press tour talking about Epstein, right? And they got all this information on Epstein, and it's all coming soon. You can just release the lists. You can release the flight logs. You can release everything you know and put this to bed. So I would call Kash Patel and Dan Bongino up and say, hey, guys, let's do this. Now, maybe this was Elon in his drug-addled mind trying to force Trump's hand into releasing this list and getting Democrat support for it. Maybe they did get the Epstein list and they realized that Israel had some type of connection to it, or they realized that it was a national security asset that the U.S. was using to blackmail business owners and politicians around the world. And they're like, oh, we can't release this. And that pissed Elon off. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll just say Trump was on it, get him to release it to show he wasn't, and then we'll see who was on it. Maybe that's what it was.
Trump would be the person to release all of this information just to prove that
out of spite.
Yeah.
100% out of spite.
Like release like all the information of like the girls' names.
And
everything like that.
Just put it out now. I don't care what's classified. I don't want anything omitted. Anything. Social security numbers, home addresses, everything. That would be him. Anyway, that's been our lead topic. Stay tuned. We got a whole bunch more to talk about. Like I said, we're not going to get to all of it, but we will get to some of it, and that's the important part. All right, and before we get to store brand TMZ, shout out to our sponsors, Firecracker Farms, not.com.org or .net, firecracker.farm, promo code BASED, BASED. Like the title of the show, you're going to save 10% off your order at the checkout on hot salt. Hot salt's a combination of Mediterranean sea salt, scorpion pepper, Carolina Reaper, and ghost pepper. It goes great on everything. A perfect spicy infusion made with love on a family farm right here in the good old US of A. Firecracker.farm. Not.com.org or .net, firecracker.farm with the promo code BASED, BASED. Like the title of the show, you'll save 10% off your order. One more time, firecracker.farm, promo code BASED, BASED. Get a save 10% off your order at the checkout. All right, let's hop into Store Brand TMZ real quick. Justin Bieber! All right, this week for Store Brand TMZ, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Starting off, tragic news. Jonathan Joss, the actor who plays John Redcorn, passed away in a bizarre fashion, passed away in a shooting earlier in the week after he went on a meltdown at the King of the Hill seminar. They were having, what were they having for King of the Hill?
It was like a
convention.
It was like a TV show convention, and King of the Hill was part of it.
Yeah, and they were having kind of like a town hall style powwow type thing. A powwow, and they excluded the Indian, right? That was the problem. So he shows up, he starts yelling about my house got burned down, how he misses the actor that played Dale that passed away a couple years ago. And then we hear like 2 days later, hey, he got shot and killed. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? So his husband, who it turns out is actually a woman pretending to be a man, comes out and said that Jonathan was the victim
Why do you keep calling me Bill?
There's never been a more appropriate time for that sound effect to be used than right there. You understand that? That's but he comes out and he says, or his wife is what she was, said that Jonathan was the victim of a homophobic hate crime. He got shot while he was out getting his mail. The neighbor was yelling a bunch of slurs at him. The San Antonio police come out and they say, well, I don't know. Like, we don't have any reason to believe this was a hate crime. So, all the usual alphabet activists are coming out talking about, oh, it's just them covering up for hate, for homophobia. And then a video comes out of John Redcorn in his house spraying a garden hose inside as it burns while singing "The roof is on fire. We don't give a fuck, so let the motherfucker burn." Lyrics to a great song right there. So maybe, and I said this when he, quote unquote, released this statement. I said, let's wait for the facts to come out because this guy was having a breakdown. I'm not saying it wasn't a murder, but I want to know exactly how far it went. So it turned out the police had been called over 40 times to visit Jonathan Joss's home for wellness checks by a multitude of neighbors. He was reported for walking down the streets with a pitchfork, screaming at people. It's a tragic situation. Here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like drugs were involved. It sounds like drugs were involved. That's what this sounds like to me. Again, here's the common theme. Drugs and mental illness, not a good combination. And unfortunately, this just ended the way that so many drug addict stories end, which is in a tragedy. Most of them aren't famous, and they don't write news articles about them when it happens. Sometimes they don't even find them when it happens. When I heard he got shot, I was like, oh, so Dale finally put 2 and 2 together. Dale finally figured it out. John Redcorn been sleeping around with his wife. All right, well, speaking of the gays, Pride Month kicked off this week, and JoJo Siwa, the queen of the gays, was spotted. A picture of her, pull the picture up real quick, in bed with a dude. There it is, Sleeping Beauty. Beauty might be a little harsh there. How old is JoJo Siwa? You can take that down.
She's gotta be like, I know she's over 21 because she posted a video.
Oh, of her at Disney or something like that. Yeah, I remember.
Probably like 21 or 22.
We covered that on the show when she was doing that. Yeah. So Mickey Rourke really bullied her out of being gay. Mickey Rourke, I mean, listen, you know those conversion therapy camps that evangelical Christians send their gay kids to? Take some notes. Don't sit these people on a chair and pray the gay away. Just hire Mickey Rourke. He'll turn them straight in like a week. I mean, it was like 30 minutes with Mickey Rourke and Joe, not even, it was like 2 minutes with Mickey Rourke and JoJo Siwa turned straight. That may be the cure right there, Mickey Rourke. I love Pride Month. Don't you love Pride Month, Mia? Isn't it your favorite month?
It's almost as up there as Black History Month.
Black
I was trying to think of what I couldn't remember what I was trying to say.
Black History Month. Yeah, I love Pride Month because the people who called J.D. Vance and Republicans weird get to dress up in their rainbow thongs and parade around with their colored hair and, make sexual advances toward children at pride parades. It's a great time when we get to see these people's true colors. Next up, Taylor Swift. By the way, I love the gays who hate Pride Month. There's so many gays that hate the pride parades. It's the same as like black people that hate gangster rap. It really is. You know what I mean? It's the gays that hate the pride. Like they want nothing to do with that subsect of their culture there. Okay, next up, Taylor Swift for $360 million bought back her music catalog. It wouldn't have happened under President Harris. I guarantee it. So just another one of Trump's wins. You don't see this in a Harris administration. Do you agree? It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree.
I've been in all the Taylor Swift groups reminding them of that. I have infiltrated many Taylor Swift Facebook groups, and I will tell them every time they bring this up. Thankfully, President Trump helped negotiate this deal for her. Okay, we got two more here. Bonnie Blue, the OnlyFans model. We can't. Wait, she's not a model. The OnlyFans prostitute, famous for sleeping with 1,000 men in a 24-hour span, decided that next month, guys, if free opportunity for you. It's your chance. This is you guys in the audience. This is your big chance. Next month, she's going to, I think it might be this month actually, but she's going to sleep with over 2,000 men in a 24-hour span. This is to picture her. It's not inappropriate or anything. Like, we wouldn't do that. She's 25 years old. Does that look like a 25-year-old to you? That is a rough 25. I mean, that's what the price, that's what selling your soul looks like right there. 2,000 men in a 24-hour span. Now, that hasn't gone unnoticed. As a fellow OnlyFans prostitute by the name of Tiffany, Wisconsin, where do the porn stars get their names? Where do they get their names? Like, Tiffany, Wisconsin doesn't even sound hot. I imagine some like 250-pound German bitch when I hear the name Tiffany, Wisconsin. But Tiffany, Wisconsin has said she's going to one-up Bonnie after she accomplishes her feat. You know, sets her record of 2,000 men in a 24-hour span. Tiffany, Wisconsin said she's going to have sex with 5,000 men in a 24 hours. Oh, boy. I'm not one of those Christians who thinks the rapture's coming anytime soon, but boy, do I wonder sometimes. Maybe those people are on to something. Do you think that either of them will hit their goal? You think they'll get to 5,000 men in a day, Mia? What do you think?
No, that's impossible.
I mean, no, it's not. You're going to be in and out constantly. I mean, these guys better be like one-pump chumps here. But
okay, I don't want to think about that.
I mean, does that not just sound repulsive to you? Like, as a man, it sounds repulsive to sleep with 2,000 women. At once. I couldn't imagine the opposite of that. Are you doing some math right now? How many men a minute that or an hour that would be?
There's 86,400 seconds in a day.
Okay, so you're looking at like each guy's going to get like 16 seconds then, 17 seconds at the most inside it. If we're going to do the 5,000 here. You're going to get 40 if you're one of the 2,000. So that might be a better deal, guys. If you want to be one of the 2,000, it might be harder to get approved, but you're going to be able to get about a solid 45 seconds inside of this cavernous pussy.
Yeah, one day is 1,440 minutes. I don't know what I was doing.
Okay,
yeah.
So we know the women that do this are trashy scum, right? What are the guys that do? What's the matter with you? It's very depressing to know that there's 2,000 guys on board to do this in the world that think this is appealing to them. It just shows the societal rot. And those are the 2,000 that are going to participate. How many more people are going to watch this and serious, not out of some morbid curiosity, but seriously get off to it is the next question. Ugh. All right, we got one more. Wake Forest baseball, unfortunately knocked out of the tournament. I would have bought a T-shirt if they weren't. But Wake Forest baseball is celebrating Pride Month in an interesting way. Wake Forest is the team's coach here. Go ahead, pull this up.
Sure, standing in.
Play that one more time. That was quick. Watch his lips.
Sure, standing in.
So they have caught a lot of flack for that because their manager said called someone a fucking faggot on the field. And, you know, you've got people that have probably never watched a baseball game in their life, probably couldn't tell you how many innings there are in a regular.
Bunch of slap-jawed faggots around here.
You're on your game today. But there's people that have never watched a full baseball game in their lives, people that couldn't tell you how many innings there are in a baseball game, how many bases there are very, very upset about this. You know, they want him fired. And let me tell you guys something. Granted, it's been a long time. It's been like 15 years, 10, 15 years. But that's sports. This guy unfortunately got caught on camera, and he probably should have been a little bit more keen to the fact that he was being recorded. That word gets thrown around all the time. And I'm not saying it's right, but it ain't being used to refer to gay people. And you people that are pretending to be outraged about this, you're just letting everyone know that you never played sports. Because I see that and I'm like, yep, that's a bunch of dudes. That's a high testosterone environment. Slurs like that get thrown around, insults, profanity. Sometimes we fight, but it's all good. I got in a fight with a guy one time in a football locker room. I don't remember what happened. Oh, we had some type of beef about something. We were arguing about something, and this guy fucking sucked. He was the worst player on the team. He's a big dude, though, so he comes up behind me and rabbit punches me in the back of the head. So I grabbed him by the throat, and I got him in the gut a couple times. I think I might have got him in the face once, and somebody broke it up, and that was it. Nobody ever talked about it again. We made up like men. We didn't even have to make up. It was just like, okay. He landed a sucker punch on me, and I landed like 4 or 5 on him, and that was it. Could you ever see women being like that, Mia? Could that ever be a setting in a female locker room? You guys wouldn't hit it. That's how men are. We fight, and we make up. And you know what? We may not be as good of friends after we fight, but there's a mutual level of respect. Like, okay, what's done is done, and we move on. There's no grudges. Now, ratchet girls fight. I went to public school. Ratchet girls fight all the time.
I'm still holding grudges on girls in high school.
I know you are. You got to let go of that. You should just go beat them up. That's the way to go. Anyway, that's been Store Brand TMZ. Stay tuned. We're going to get to as much of trending this week as we can in about 35 minutes. Pray for us. All right, before we get into trending this week, shout out to our sponsors at Tactilian, TACTILIAN.com with the promo code BASED, like the title of the show. You're going to save 15% off your order at the checkout on gifts for the Patriot in your life, decor for your home and office, get-ups for your dog, decals for your vehicle, and merchandise apparel for you. Pro-America, pro-Constitution, pro-Second Amendment, pro-veteran. Go check it out. Tactilian.com. I got one of the flags in the back of my car, the magnetic flags. TACTILIAN.com with the promo code BASED. A portion of the proceeds will go to help build homes for wounded veterans. It was founded by a former member of law enforcement. Again, that's Tactilian.com, TACTILIAN.com with the promo code BASED, BASED, like the title of the show. It's going to save you 15% off your order at the checkout. Mia, do you know where I learned that you in an ad you plug the website and promo code 3 times? Do you know where I learned that from?
Alex Jones.
No. Rabbi Buttplug. When Rabbi Buttplug, Rabbi Shmuley. When Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter were recording a promo video for their sex toy shop that they run together in Israel, where they sell lubes and all these books on how to enhance your sex life and toys and butt plugs and vibrators and you name it. He reminded his daughter in the middle of this ad about butt plugs and lube that you gotta shout the website out 3 times so people know to go. Once in the beginning, once in the middle, once in the end. I mean, is that not the American dream, to start a sex toy shop with your daughter? Is that not the American dream there? If that isn't, I don't know what is. Mia, could you imagine starting a sex toy shop with your dad? Like going into the family business together? Just like, oh my goodness. All right. Well, speaking of Rabbi Butt Plug, that's a good segue. Let's get into the Boulder, Colorado rally. So at Boulder, Colorado, we had a rally. I wasn't there, but there was a rally for the Israeli hostages to raise awareness for it. And a gentleman shows up and begins throwing Molotov cocktails at these people, severely burned. So he had a homemade flamethrower, too. We got a video of him. Go ahead and play the video of the terrorist. This is a stable individual here.
We're here, brother. We're here. We can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing. We can. Not here. Not here, bro.
I'm taking video right now.
All right, that's enough. So he's screaming about the Zionists. He's throwing fire bombs at people in Boulder, Colorado, and they're just all sitting there waiting for the police to arrive. Mind you, Colorado just recently passed some really strict gun control laws. Could you imagine if anyone there would have just been able to shoot that guy and put an end to it? That guy tried to buy a gun. He tried to, but he went out, and as it turns out, he was an illegal immigrant from Egypt who wasn't supposed to be here. So when he went to buy the gun, it flagged on the background check, and he was rejected. Which, as it turns out, now if he would have been able to get a gun, it would have been a lot worse. But as it turns out, people like myself were right. Imagine, just for a second, if we just enforced the gun laws that we had on the books. If the gun laws we had on the books actually worked, we'd have people do shit like this. Now, the problem is when we put too many gun laws on the books, people aren't allowed to defend themselves. There's your issue. Here's my question, though. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. You've got this guy who's not even in the country legally, goes to buy a gun, flags up on the FBI background check. Hey, this guy's not allowed to buy a gun. He's not in the country legally. He's an Egyptian national who should have been deported. His visa's expired. How did nobody follow up with this guy? Maybe this happened before those two were in charge of the FBI, so maybe I'm being unnecessarily harsh on them. How does no one say, okay, let's go check? Like, let's go check on this guy. ATF, FBI, ICE, anybody. How does no one get dispatched to this guy to go check him out here? I mean, I'm sorry, you have an illegal immigrant trying to buy a firearm from a country that's a little high risk, by the way. Nobody goes and checks up on that? No one's like, let's go see what's going on here. So the guy illegally entered the U.S. during the Biden administration. Or excuse me, he entered the U.S. legally during the Biden administration. His visa expired through 2023, and he never left. So the Biden administration let him stay, and this has been a theme all week. We've got another guy that just got arrested he's an illegal immigrant that the Biden administration allowed to stay in the country, just got arrested, or sentenced, for raping a little girl. We've got another guy in Florida who the Biden administration allowed to stay. He was a 37-year-old illegal immigrant, molested at least one and possibly more teen girls that the Biden administration sent to live with him as part of the Unaccompanied Alien Children Act. It's just bad week for the Biden administration. And of course, they're going to suffer no consequences for it because Joe's got cancer, so we can't criticize anything they did. So this guy's out here, and by the way, first off, we're talking about the guns. Play the Jamie Raskin video. He's a congressman. Here's what Jamie Raskin had to say. This was this big-brained genius's reaction to this Molotov cocktail attack. Go ahead.
Across the country, we are still in the midst of a gun violence epidemic. So we need to be acting with due concern for human life. This is why, of course, we have been fighting for a universal violent criminal background check. We are for a ban on military-style assault weapons in the country. Our lax gun laws are a danger to everybody. in America, and that's something that we can act with some legislative determination to turn around. But people have got to lead their lives, and people need to act with courage, but it is the responsibility of government to try to keep everybody safe from random arbitrary violence and bigotry and hate-motivated crimes.
That's this dumbass's reaction. Somebody shows up throwing Molotov cocktails, which, by the way, are not legal. And they're also not a firearm. Shows up throwing Molotov cocktails at people, and his reaction is to blame guns. Say we need to act on guns. No. Number one, we need to act on illegal immigrants. And we need to be careful who the hell we let into this country. Number two, you guys need to stop riling these people up. This was a guy who was upset at Israel. So he decided to take it out on people in the United States. And you cretins have continued to fan the flames of this on the left. Right, when these idiots say from the river to the sea, you had a Jewish couple that got shot. Well, one was Jewish, one was Christian. Got shot, I believe, in Washington, D.C. or New York, just for being Jewish a week ago. When these idiots say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, this is what they mean. This is what they're talking about. Global intifada. They say it. They're the ones that want it. I'm going to say something that's a little controversial here, guys, which we would never do on this show. Tolerance only works when it is tolerance only works when it's a two-way street. When tolerance is not a two-way street, it becomes a one-way street to hell. When you see these Muslim activists immigrate to the United States, and there's videos all over the internet, you can find these, of them saying they're here to convert Christians to their religion, I think we need to take a long, hard look and say, are these people we want in our country? Because let me tell you right now, if you went to an Islamic country, if you went to Syria, if you went to Saudi Arabia, if you went to the UAE, if you went to, God forbid, their precious Palestine, as a Christian or as a Jew or as an atheist, and decided you were going to try to convert all these people that were Muslim to your belief system, I'm going to put the over-under at 15 and a half minutes for how long it would take them to fucking hang you in the streets. It wouldn't be long. Now, you'll scream freedom of religion, blah, 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 and I understand the First Amendment. Here's what people don't understand about the First Amendment. You're allowed to practice whatever religion you want in the United States. That's part of religious freedom. The First Amendment prevents the federal government and Congress from establishing a national religion. They can't say everyone's got to be Catholic, everyone's got to be, go to this mega church with Pastor Brody where we buy our $9 lattes in the church cafe and we play rock music for an hour and a half. They can't do that. What they're allowed to do, and they've been allowed to do time and time again, is restrict the practices of religions that directly assault our cultural values here in the West. So when you see the Scientologists going out terrorizing former members, they're not allowed to do that. They may get away with it, but legally they can't do it. When you hear about Islamic clerics trying to establish communities that are living under Sharia law, they're not allowed to do that. So when we've got these people coming to this country saying, I want to convert people to Islam, but we can't go to their countries and do the same thing, why the hell are we letting them in? Hey, if you want to be a Muslim, I don't think that should be illegal here. But why the hell are we letting you into our country when you're coming here saying you want to convert a bunch of people to a religion that directly conflicts with Western cultural values? And it absolutely does. It absolutely does. I mean, the reason the Muslims are so angry is because they've been told that they're God's chosen people time and time again, and that Christians and Jews and everybody else, we've got it all wrong. And they really want to believe that. But the problem is, here's one of the fundamental differences between Islam and Christianity. Islam promises rewards in this lifetime for following the religion, along with rewards in the afterlife. Christianity doesn't. Christianity says, hey, you may have a rough go, but here's what's waiting at the end if you stay true. Islam is a little bit more complicated. So when they see that they're sitting in this just barren desert in poverty, and we're all over here living the good life, they get frustrated because it makes them question their religion. And just like with the woke cult, like we saw earlier, when people who have been radicalized, indoctrinated since children into this belief system, fed with propaganda over and over and over and over again, and pushed to the point of radicalization, when they're met with information that conflicts their belief system, which is a core part of who they are as a human being, it's not in their nature to sit down and go, maybe I've got this wrong. They lash out, often violently. Sometimes it's the woke woman that we played earlier, smacking the cell phone out of the guy's hands. Sometimes it's a car bombing. Sometimes it's what we had just a couple days ago, where a Muslim man in Michigan pled guilty for a plot to open fire at a Jewish preschool daycare center at a synagogue to kill as many of them as he could. Now, they arrested him before he did that, but he was getting ready to do it. How much longer are we going to put up with this? Again, I think you should be able to worship whatever God you want to, right? But it ain't the Christians and Jews walking into daycares mowing people down. When's the last time you've heard about somebody doing that? When's the last time you've heard about that? I just don't get how the FBI couldn't follow up with this guy when he tried to buy a gun. I mean, if I sit here and talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really loudly into my phone, when I pull up Facebook, I'm going to get 17 different ads for Tampa Bay Buccaneers merch. You've got these guys going on looking up radical Islamic terror. They're looking up how to buy a gun or how to make bombs, how to make Molotov cocktails. They're trying to illegally purchase firearms, and you can't even follow up with them. That's crazy to me. That's just a little, and to Kash Patel's credit, I know everyone's rolling the conspiracy because listen, I'm no fan of Israel, but everyone wants to pretend Israel's the big bad boogeyman behind every corner. I don't think that's true either. I don't think this is a false flag like a lot of people are pointing at. They're saying, oh, Kash Patel said it was a terror attack 25 minutes after it happened. I'm like, well, they're like, how did he know that? How did he get that information that quickly? I'm like, well, he used these things called context clues. You had a rally where people were trying to spread awareness about hostages in Gaza, Israeli Jewish hostages in Gaza. Somebody targeted that with a mass casualty event terror attack. It's not hard to put 2 and 2 together. I don't think this guy was a patsy or fall. I think he was another lunatic that the Biden administration just kicked the can down the curb and let him stay here. And the ball was dropped on multiple plays. That's all this was. We got more time here. How much time? What are we at time-wise? Oh, boy, we got to get rolling here. We'll talk Portnoy on the Sunday show. I'm not going to do that yet. So let's go to the next one. Let's talk Ukraine. Let's talk Ukraine for a little bit. So Ukraine launched a strike on Russia, blew up 34% of their nuclear fleet a day before peace negotiations were set to begin. And Russia struck back Thursday. So after Ukraine blew this fleet up in Russia, Zelensky goes on a press conference. This is laughable. Zelensky goes on a press conference and right after they blow up 34% of their planes and goes, all right, we're ready for peace talks now. Like, that's not how that works. You don't get to hit somebody in the mouth, back away, and say, oh, don't hit me. Like, if we're at a bar and we're getting into it, we're yelling at each other, maybe there's a little pushing and shoving going on, and I walk up to you and just jack you in the mouth, and then you start taking your jacket off, your buddies are hyping you up or trying to stop you, depending on what type of friends you got. And I start going, oh, man, hey, let's talk this out, all right? My bad, I'll buy you a beer. That's not how that works. We're going to fight, and whatever happens, happens. And maybe we'll have a beer afterwards, because like I was saying, that's how guys are. But whatever happens, happens there. I don't get to just back out after I hit you as hard as Zelensky hit Russia. Now, I get it. It's war. You got to do what you got to do to fight a war. I'm not judging the guy for that. But you don't get to hit somebody that hard, and then when it's clear they're coming back with a full-scale attack, play the, no, my bad. Oopsies. Like, what Ukraine is doing right now, we had a kid in high school that was, his brother was a big dude. He was a couple years older than him. Star football defensive lineman, I think, linebacker, something like that. And this kid was a prick. His younger brother. And nobody wanted to beat his ass because you know his big brother would fuck him up. Or would fuck you up. That's what Ukraine's doing right now. They're toying with Russia, pushing them to the brink, knowing Russia's not going to do anything drastic because big brother U.S. is going to be there to back him up. Do you know who my brother is? Well, you know what happened one day? That kid's brother graduated, and like 6 people beat his ass on consecutive days. We're getting to the point where there's a new sheriff in town in the U.S., and big brother U.S. is about to graduate high school, and they're not going to be there to protect you from the world anymore. Now, you may have your cousins, the EU and Canada, to back you up, but everyone knows that those guys are fags, and they're not really scared of them. So there's not really all that much you can do about it. It doesn't really have the same effect. I mean, think about this from Putin's perspective. I mean, could you imagine? Putin's going to think twice, regardless of who the president is, about crossing that line to where the U.S. is going to get involved. He doesn't want that smoke. But, I mean, could you imagine if the U.S. backed out and Zelensky's like, don't you dare use a tactical nuke on the battlefield, Vladimir, or you're going to have to answer to Canada. You just wait until Norway finds out about this, okay? Like, it doesn't have the same effect on him, you know? Like, so I think here's what people got to realize is there's a lot of things people got to realize about this, because you've got the UK moving to a wartime economy. Starmer is warning that they need to up their military defense spending. Poland took a hard right turn, which a lot of people in their last election, which does have a lot to do with the refugee crap going on. But it's also the other thing with Poland, which you got to realize is it's easy to be liberal and tolerant when everything's going well in peace times. But when the wolves are out the door, nobody's looking to the left-wing party in any country to protect them. Poland's always in the crosshairs for Russia. They're always next, right? If you're Poland, do you want some sissy frolicking around with a pride flag up, knowing that Russia's next door fucking your neighbors up and could very well be coming for you next? Or do you want the hardline nationalist to protect you? I mean, it's really that simple. It's really that simple. You got somebody breaking down your door right now. Right now. You can call 1 of 2 people. I'm not home. You can call 1 of 2 people to come help you. You can get a guidance counselor with a minor in gender and queer studies. Or you can call up an ex-Navy SEAL who's armed to the teeth. Who are you going to call to come protect you from the home invader?
Well, the guidance counselor can guide me how to get out of the situation.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, when the wolves, it's easy to pick the soft, liberal, fun, tolerant people when everything's going well. But when the wolves are at the door, when the chips are on the table, when it's fight or flight time, when it's time to nut up or shut up, the far right parties are always the ones people pick because that's who they feel the safest with. Those are the ones that aren't going to put up with the bullshit. So I think the problem here is Trump has underestimated 2 things. And I told everyone, I'm not even going to say it again. I'm not going to bring up how I told everyone how stupid it was for him to say that he was going to end this war on day 1, because it was more complicated than that. And he should have known better than to say that. Now, granted, if Harris were president, this is probably 100 times worse because we're upping how much we're shipping to Ukraine. We're putting even more pressure on. But I think Trump underestimated two things. Number one, how much of a mess he was inheriting, how badly the previous administration fucked this up. The previous administration said and did things to Russia that make it very, very difficult for them to negotiate with us in good faith, because what Russia realizes is we're a different animal negotiating with the United States. We change power a whole lot more than they do, right? We don't have one party that basically controls everything with fake elections to the same degree they do. He may be dealing with Trump now, but he knows very well that 4 years from now, he's dealing with somebody totally different that might be back to the old school Biden Cold Warrior school of thought. There's a very good chance that could happen. So he's a little bit more hesitant because he's seen the other side of the coin. And, well, yeah, I may not have a problem with this Trump guy quite as much. I've seen what the last guy did to me, and I'm a little hesitant to come to any type of negotiation with you because I know what could replace you. So now that he's seen the other side of the coin, it becomes very, very difficult for Donald Trump to get any type of meaningful deal done. I think the other thing he underestimated was his relationship with Putin. Putin respects him, but he doesn't like him. I think he thought he liked him. There's a respect there that wasn't there for Biden and wasn't there for Harris. Wasn't there for Bush, wasn't there for Obama. But they're not buddies. I think he thought he could go over to Putin and be like, what was that episode of King of the Hill where Dale and Bill were feuding and Hank was trying to be peacemaker? I think he thought he could pull a Hank Hill and go over and be like, hey, man, come on. Like, just pick the can up off his yard. Let's get over this, right? And it really didn't work that way. I respect you, but you're not about to come in here and tell me how to run my country. And I'm not pro-Putin. I'm just giving you the reality. Like I've always said, we have to view things from other people's perspective. We may agree it's wrong for him to invade Ukraine, but we have to look at it from his perspective if we want to defeat him. If we're unable to look at the world, if we're unable to understand why he sees the world and the current situation over in Ukraine the way he does, we will never end this war. It's going to go on forever. So Trump underestimated that. He also underestimated the fact that you've got people like Lindsey Graham going over to Ukraine, spending $400,000 on a hotel stay for him and Dick Blumenthal. Lindsey Graham is totally straight, right? Mike Pompeo getting involved, former Trump staffer. He fired him, thank God, years ago. He also underestimated the fact, third bonus item here, that the deep state's got more pull in this country than a lot of us want to admit, despite what happened on November 5th. The deep state is way too powerful, you guys. It didn't just disappear when Trump won the re-election back in 2024. That's not how this works. The deep state's still very much alive. Now, we finally got someone in power to counter the deep state. The White House is not colluding with the deep state like it was. But we've still got someone there behind the scenes trying to pad the pockets of the military-industrial complex and continue these forever wars. That's what we forget about here. So I hear about Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal going over there, and then shortly after is when this airstrike happens. My question here is, how much of a role did Lindsey Graham have in that airstrike? Because what you're seeing right now is you've got Donald Trump and the anti-establishment folks that are trying to prevent the country from being driven off a cliff into World War III. And then you've got people like Lindsey Graham, you've got people like Dick Blumenthal, you've got all Mike Pompeos of the world, all these deep state ghouls that seem to be having this internal tug of war for control of the country. Where one side is trying to pull us away, the anti-establishment side trying to pull us away from all these foreign entanglements and away from all these expensive wars that could end humanity as we know it. And then you've got another side that's trying to pull us into World War III. And they're not going to go down without a fight. So they didn't go away. Thank God there's someone there to counter them. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Kamala Harris would have won, oh my God, we would have been shipping. I mean, we would have been up in the ante over there. We would have been turning the temperature up, telling Ukraine, you're not doing enough. She made that clear. Kamala Harris all but said, we're going to war with Russia if I get elected. Not only was she saying they were going to continue Biden's aggressive policies toward Russia, where they weren't even trying to negotiate a peace deal, where they stopped Ukraine from accepting multiple ceasefire agreements, and then told them to go carry out more attacks. That's what the Biden administration did. She was outright saying she was going to ramp up the pressure on Russia. Kamala Harris would have guaranteed us World War III. While the deep state's still an element of our government, and they're still trying to make World War III happen, we've at least got a fighting chance to avoid it with Trump. Give me a chance. Put me in the ring. You know? You've also got the fact that I guess he's underestimated 4 things. I said 2, and then I came up with 2 more. That's how good I am at this. He also underestimated the fact that Europe was going to work against him. The rest of Europe. Europe's upping the pressure on Russia as well, shipping more weapons, trying to kick off a war. Because here's what Europe realizes. Europe wants this right now. They may not have wanted it under Biden. They want the war. Because Europe's trying to kick this off. Because Europe understands that right now, as we record this show, the United States has to uphold multiple treaties and agreements that would require us to defend them should Russia attack. Donald Trump has talked a whole bunch of shit about getting us out of those agreements. It's almost like right now Europe is trying to start the war now so that the U.S. is contractually obliged to come in and save the day. They're like, if we're going to do it, let's do it now. So Europe's upping the pressure. That's where this all just gets weird, because it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's like, yeah, we got rid of the war hawks in the White House that were trying to start World War III. But then the war hawks in Europe and the war hawks in the deep state that were behind the scenes in the U.S. government all stepped up, and they're like, we got this. We'll make World War III happen. Give me World War III or give me death, baby. So that's why this is so frustrating. Again, it's no question who I would take. I'm going to take the guy that's going to actively fight to try to avoid World War III, but this is not as easy as he thought it was going to be. And if he don't get this shut down by the midterms, this is going to be endless fodder for the Democrats going into those. Okay, we got time for one more. I'm not going to talk about anything that's going to take too long. What did you say?
Can we do the Tinder?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We got time for one more. We'll do a quick. We'll do the Tinder height filter. Have you heard about this? You haven't? So this is Outkick.com. Oh, wait, hold on. Not Outkick. Just a second. This is Quartz.com. Tinder tests a controversial height filter as paid dating apps users keep dropping. So I didn't know that. More people are getting out of the paid dating app or the dating app game. Why do you think that is? Do you think people are giving up? Or do you think that people are settling down? What do you think's going on here?
I think people are settling down.
You think?
I don't know. That's just what I want to think.
But I mean, we come on here and we read these statistics about the Zoomers dating less and stuff like that. As much as I would like to think that's what's going on, and we're going to see this baby boom of couples because we really need a population boom right now, I don't think that's what's going on. I think people just aren't dating.
Why did you ask me if you knew I was going to pick the wrong choice?
I didn't say you were wrong. This is how this show works. We exchange opinions. It's okay to disagree. So it says shares in their group fell 7% on Thursday after the company reported its paid user group shrunk 5% by 700,000 people. From 14 million users in 23 to 14.9 million in 23 to 14.2 in 2024, and it plans to cut 13% of its workforce. Man, it is a bad time to be Tinder. It's a bad time to be Tinder. CEO Spencer Raskoff started the job in February, faces uncertain times in the online dating market. User engagement slowed due to inflation and the lack of new features, although both Match and Bumble, its main competitor, are using AI features to try and improve. How does AI improve? How do you use AI on a dating site? So it says one new Tinder feature has been controversial, a new trial allowing paying users to use height as a filter. It's raised the ire of self-identified short kings concerned about heightism. It's their words, not mine. Hinge, on the other hand, already has had a height filter. Match Group owns both companies. In 2010, OkCupid said its research showed that most men inflate their height by 2 inches. Wow. 2 inches. That's a lot to lie about. Like, there's a big difference. I'm 6'1", right? I'm actually 6'1". There's a big difference between somebody who's 6'1" and 6'3", or somebody who's 6'1" and 5'11". There's a that's a huge gap right there. 5'7" and 5'5". Massive difference, specifically for men. It's a lot to pack on there. This is while 2010 to 2016 is considered the peak of popularity for dating apps. Global revenue and number of users continue to rise. Those people are likely older. 2023 says 79% of college-age adults don't use any dating apps at all. I feel the apps have ruined the dating. Oh, that's good. That's good. So I realize the apps, because it really does. It reduces people to a transaction and a swipe. So that's good. Here's my question, though. If we're going to do the height filter, because I understand a lot of women want tall men. Oh my God, I just saw the weather and I thought that was here. It's Vegas. It popped up on my iPad here. It said it was going to be 100 degrees all week. I was like, oh God. That's how much of a degenerate I am. I have the Vegas weather on my weather app. You never know when you do an impromptu trip, right? Here's my question, though. If we're going to bring out a height filter so women can cycle through shorter men, and I say this as a neutral party for several reasons. I'm married, so I'm obviously not on the apps. I'm not in the dating game, period. But I'm also in that height range, which is above 6 feet that most women want. So it doesn't matter to me either way. I'm not one of these people that's offended by it. Isn't it only right that we give men a weight filter so they can siphon out the fatties? Isn't that equality that we want in this country? So that we can decide, or so that men can decide, hey, maybe I don't want a girl that's built like Vince Wilfork. Maybe I'm a little fiscally responsible, and when the two of us go on vacation together, I don't want to pay for that third plane ticket. Just maybe. You know, maybe when we go out to the restaurant, I don't want to be asked, are you going to finish that? Because I am. And she already vacuumed her food up off the plate, drank the pizza through a straw. Maybe I don't want to have to stop every time we go out to the mall or the grocery store together so she can catch her breath halfway down the aisle. You know? Maybe I don't want my wife to die at 54 of a heart attack. Maybe I don't want a $1,000 monthly grocery bill. These are all questions. These guys are thinking these things, right? The average guy is. I mean, let's be honest here. If we're going to talk about pros and cons of dating a short guy versus pros and cons of dating a fat woman, yeah, there's the aesthetic of a short guy, right? But dating a fat woman, objectively, comes with far more direct negatives, objective negatives, not just, oh, I don't think they're attractive because of the way they look, but negatives in terms of financial, healthy lifestyle choices, convenience, than dating a short guy does to a woman. It just does. It does. Because here's the thing. If you're going to date one of these cows, one of these heifers, that the dating sites right now
piece of shit
are infringing upon your right to sort out the fatties. If you're going to date one of these abominations, odds are that person does not have a very healthy lifestyle. That's a very sedentary person, and that will naturally seep over to you. And you're going to adopt that same lifestyle. So I don't think it's out of the question, because, I mean, when you're talking lifestyle, it actually makes more sense. Again, there's another box to check there for why it makes more sense to filter by weight than height. If you're a dude maybe you're not an Olympian, but you're somewhat active, you like to go to the gym, you get up and move around, you're not going to want to date someone who just wants to sit her fat ass on the couch 24/7 and cry into her carton of Haagen-Dazs while she leaves negative reviews of podcasts that she claims to not like, but she listens to every episode of, and then tries to flex her husband's income while she sits around on her fat ass and doesn't do anything because she's never accomplished shit in her life. You don't want to be with somebody like that. Nobody does. So maybe you're within your right to demand that weight filter. There we go. Demand a weight filter. That's the message of the day. Mia, what do you think? Anything you want to add?
I agree.
She agrees. I'm sorry to the midgets. The women don't want to be with you. It is what we should have got Zach Bravietti on the show to come in as an expert guest on dating as a short man, because I can tell you that's one thing I've never had to experience. Never had to worry about height. That's never been the how tall are you? Are you 5'1"?
5'1".
5'1". Yeah, see. Now, if I were like 5'5", would that have been a deal breaker for you? If I were a short guy? No, because, I mean, you're already short.
No, because Daniel Radcliffe is 5'5".
What if I was 4'11"?
That might be. I don't think I could be with a guy that's shorter than me.
Okay, but what if
someone who's 5'1"?
What if I was 6'1" and then I went to war and the Tojos took my shins?
I guess I'd have to deal with it.
You'd have to deal with it.
You were
Okay.
Cotton Hill.
Yeah, if you show Mia, Cotton Hill is not off the table for Mia. What's that?
And you killed Fitty
I was a
Men.
goddamn war hero. I killed fitty men. Okay. All right. Anyway, just look out for the man with the terrible smell. Anyway, that's been our show. We're going to do at least one, probably a bonus episode Sunday, and then we'll piggyback it into Wednesday. I don't know. We got a whole bunch of shit to talk about still coming up. We'll see you soon. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse. And if you do cheat on your spouse, ladies, make sure he's taller than 6 foot and stay mixed.